This is against the spread. You already know that because you clicked on the link and played it, so we appreciate that. Every week at Sportsnet, we're going to give you the best NFL picks against the spread. I'm Donnovan. This is Geoff. He's actually going to be doing it on our website, sportsnet.ca, so check out his full picks. But we're going to break it down, just the games that are really, really interesting from a line perspective. And I think the one that intrigues me to start is this one. -6 for the Vikes, considering that Jimmy G was undefeated as a starter to end the season. Also, the Niners are a public team. Did this line at all surprise you?
It didn't surprise me for two reasons. First of all, the Vikings are at home, and they're dominant at home, and they're going to be one of the NFC superpowers this season. So I think at home it's fair. And then the second reason is the 49ers defense has a lot of question marks. They were among the worst in the league last season, and despite the excitement around the offense this year, there's some real question marks on defense.
Well, so full disclosure, Lowe is the in-house NFL guru, so it's not smart for me to go against him, but I'm not that smart. I'm going to go against him. I know McKinnon, former Viking, now at the Niners, is injured, and as you mentioned, their defense is a mess, especially their secondary. I don't think they're going to win, but I think they're going to keep it close. 6 is a big number for me. I'm going to roll with the Niners. I love these matchups because I love the storylines, and this one is a great one. It's the Coughlin Bowl. His former team in the Giants and the team he's trying to build in that image, his new team, the Jaguars. Great pass rush, a QB that manages the game, or we hope Blake Bortles can manage the game, and a great defensive secondary. Are you surprised that this line only at -3 in favor of Jacksonville, considering they were a couple plays away from going to the Super Bowl, and this team was a couple losses away from having the first overall pick in the draft in the Giants?
It may be a little shocking for some, considering, like you say, how close the Jags were to a trip to the Super Bowl, but the Giants have done a lot this year. They're at home, and the offense looks good, and coming from a guy who likes another NFC East team, it's hard to admit, but they're going to be fun to watch on offense with OBJ healthy and back, Saquon Barkley, Evan Ingram, and hopefully Manning can get it done behind a revamped offensive line.
Yeah, that NFC East team he's referring to is the Eagles. You will notice as we do this throughout the year, he is a big fan of Fly, Eagles Fly. I'm a big fan of the Jags, and I love the talk that Jalen Ramsey has done all offseason. We'll see how much he respects Eli Manning, who in big spots in his career has been a big-time player. Over the last couple of years, he's been, as Jalen Ramsey would say, is average. But what is less than average is their receiving core. That's the big difference between what Coughlin did with the Giants and what he still hasn't been able to do with the Jags. The injury to Marquise Lee really hurts. Blake Bortles, we can criticize him, but he doesn't really have many options to throw to. Having said that, I still think -3 is a little too close of a number. I like the Jags in this one.
I'm concerned about how the Jags are going to score. I really don't know. They don't have much of a passing option, and the run game is something they're going to depend on, but how much can they get done if they're not throwing the ball well? And the Giants' defense last year it was actually really bad. But 2 years ago, it was quite good. So we don't know what we're going to see from them, so I'm concerned about Jacksonville's offense.
Yeah, their defense was really bad. Their defense was also really hurt. And you probably are going to see them revert back to that form where they were 2 years ago, if not the best defense in football, one of the best. But right now, the best defense in football, for me, is in Jacksonville. You're asking how they're going to score? That defense might score, and I think that's why I'm rolling with the Jets. This is a big game, and if you like offensive football, this would probably be the game to watch. Chargers at home, 3.5. I'm really actually surprised about this line. How much of this is about the experience in the quarterbacks on both sides?
I think that plays a big role. We don't really know what to expect from Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, who last year, obviously under a different quarterback, were a very dangerous team, but had their problems, especially on defense, and we don't know whether those have actually really been fixed. The Chargers, on the other hand, are a sleeper favorite for the AFC, and I think with Phillip Rivers and healthy Keenan Allen and Melvin Gordon, there's some really dangerous weapons for the Chargers. So I'm not entirely surprised by the line, and I like the Chargers here. I think they're going to win by a touchdown or more.
Yeah, once again, I disagree. You mentioned that defense. Well, that defense is getting Eric Berry back, and we've seen in previous years, they're a totally different defense when he is on the field. The Chargers also getting someone back, Antonio Gates, after 16 years, but we're not really sure if he's going to play in Week 1, and if he does, how impactful he's going to be after missing all of the offseason program and training camp. I know when it's close, you go with the home team, especially in the division, but the Chargers don't have much of a home field advantage. In fact, I expect there to be more Chiefs fans in the stands than Chargers fans. This team goes a month without a home game throughout the year, between October and November, so they need to get a home win early. I just don't think it's going to be against the Chiefs.
I'm not actually convinced that non-home field advantage for the Chargers exists. Last year, they started off 0-3 at home, but then won their last 5 games at home. They were one of the best teams in the AFC, so I kind of expect them to keep things going, and I don't know whether the home field advantage really affects it. Another thing that I want to talk about is the pass rushing duo of Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram. And they're going to get after Mahomes, and I think the rookie might struggle and throw some picks to a secondary that takes its opportunities.
This is why he makes the picks on the website. And I just saw Mahomes throw a great pass in preseason, and I've got the hype like everybody else. If you're betting, I would go with him, but I'm really hoping that I'm right. Okay, if you listen to one pick this week, this would be the one to listen to. This is Geoff's upset of the week. Clearly, the public is on the side with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, and after Rodgers got all of that money, what he doesn't have is a lot of receivers. 7.5 is a lot against a very good Chicago Bears defense.
Yeah, the defense was top 10 last year, kind of under the radar because there was not a lot going on offensively. They were kind of a boring team, but that's going to be different this year with Matt Nagy taking over head coaching duties. He's an offensive-minded guy. And I think we could see a similar change as to what we saw with the Rams and the Eagles last year in the second years of their quarterbacks, a more dynamic-looking Trubisky, and he's surrounded with a bunch of new weapons. I just see them keeping this game closer than 7.5.
Yeah, at the beginning of the season, you're always looking for that team that's going to surprise, make a run to the playoffs, and really that's due to maybe a new coach changing things or a quarterback taking the next step. You could have both in Chicago. Yeah. Plus, you already mentioned a very good defense that adds Raekwon Smith, who finally signed, then adds Khalil Mack. Their win odds went from 6.5 to 7.5 with the Mack signing alone. Mm-hmm. I think 7.5 is a big number. I agree. I think this could be an upset pick. This is a matchup that is much sexier when you look at the team logos and the fan bases than when you look at the depth charts. Rams, who many people think might go to the Super Bowl, are 4.5 favorites in this game in Oakland. What do you think about that line?
I like it. Donnovan, this is my lock of the week. I like the Rams here. I like what they've done in the offseason. They brought in Brandon Cooks for Sammy Watkins. It's a complete different weapon on the offensive side of the football. And then defensively, they just got better. They were good last year, dominant Aaron Donald along the defensive line. They brought in Ndamukong Suh, and they have some different corners who can change the game. And really, the Raiders, it's been all bad news for the Raiders since Gruden took over. And it's just going to be headlined by Khalil Mack being traded over the weekend.
Yeah, I think more fans in California, more fans, quite frankly, in LA, are still Raiders fans. But the Rams have the better team. And if we're being honest, they have the better coaching staff. Sean McVay is who John Gruden was 20 years ago. John Gruden hasn't necessarily had the best offseason. He's called out his front office. Oh, and he traded his best player. The Rams are a team who not only re-signed their best player who plays similar position, wrecks the game in a similar way in Aaron Donald, they've added pieces on offense and defense to go around him. I just think you have a team that's loaded and you have a team that's getting ready for a move to Vegas. I agree. I would lock this with the Rams.
My biggest question mark about the Raiders is what does John Gruden actually bring? We haven't seen him coach in 10 years. We don't know whether he is ready to coach a team in the modern NFL. Now, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders were much better than they were last year, especially when it comes to Derek Carr. But it's such a question mark that you have to like the Rams and the continuation of Sean McVay and Jared Goff and that defense.
See, I actually would be surprised if the Raiders are much better than they were last year because, again, their best player is gone. Marshawn Lynch is a year older. And even if Amari Cooper stops dropping the football and gets better, I just don't see a lot of talent on this roster. And this is a public team, so I think that's why this line is so close, which is why it's a smart lock. But I think a lot of this is about the hype with Gruden and that excitement and the fact that there are a lot of Raiders fans in the world. If you just looked at the teams with no logos, you'd pick the Rams. For me, I would even go a double-digit favorite in this game.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Some week 1 survivor picks, something we're going to do every week because people aren't just betting against the spread. They're betting in office pools and survivor pools. For me, week 1, I'm going with the Saints. This is going to be a tough team to pick throughout the year because they're playing a first place schedule and they're playing in a very tough division in the NFC South. But against the Bucs, early without Jameis Winston, I think this is a nice pick of the Saints.
I'm going to go with the Ravens over the Bills, and the reasons why are twofold. I think the Ravens are going to be a much improved team this year. They've got some weapons around Joe Flacco, and if Joe Flacco doesn't perform, then we're going to see a lot of Lamar Jackson. But week 1, I think it's going to be Flacco, and I think they're going to do some damage. The other reason is that the Bills have some huge question marks. Obviously, Nathan Peterman is one at quarterback, and then the offensive line looks to be in disarray. So I expect a Harbaugh team to take advantage of something like that, and I think the Ravens come out on top, and they probably cover the spread, which is going to be 7 points.
Listen, I wouldn't fault you if in your survivor picks you pick against the Bills all year, especially if Nathan Peterman is playing quarterback because he loves to throw the ball to other teams. I would fault you, though, if you don't log on to sportsnet.ca, check out this man's picks, and check out our NFL coverage all throughout the year. We're going to have the National Football League covered from a Canadian angle.